Hello everybody and welcome back to Memory Gamma. Today we are going to start on making some hero ships. What I mean by that is I'm going to go through each one of these series that we have ships for, and I'm going to build the ship. So basically it's the Enterprise in most cases, but both Voyager and the Defiant will be making appearances in this little video chain. Now, I'm going to be sticking with era specific and canon specific. So so when I'm doing the NX, I'm not going to be using, you're not going to be able to use any of the modern crew members to try and make it better. Also, you can't backport or forward push. I'm going to try and keep it as true to the ship we see in the series as possible. Now, for some of these, it's going to require me choosing a particular version. There are several versions of several of the ships. In the case of some of them, however, there is one named version, at which point that's the one, obviously, we will be using. And I will do my best to try and maximize the power of that ability and the ship using crew members that are on board. Now, I'm not going to stick entirely with versions of the crew. So, for example, with original series, there are many different Kirks. Some of them are from the movie, some of them are from earlier. However, when I build the ship, I'm simply going to bring a Kirk, whichever one works best for the particular ship that I'm going for. Same with the Enterprise D. There might be some versions of the crew which the picture on the card is based upon one of the later series or even movies, and yet I use them on, say, the Enterprise D. Again, I'm simply using it. This is the person. They are on this ship. The era, the timing of them might be a little bit off from the picture, but I'm going to try and keep it to that. So it's a very, very long preamble as I'm trying to do this. So we're going to start from the very beginning, and we're going to go for the NX-01. Now, there is technically two named ships for this. However, this is the original NX-01. The enhanced hull plating tech upgrade gets on board your ship for free. The enhanced hull plating tech upgrade has been errated out and has now been replaced with the enhanced hull plating construction upgrade. So this one is now, while it has not been theoretically replaced, I do not believe, it is no longer a valid card to use. Obviously, if you want to use it like that, then go for it. It is your game. If you want to play when you're playing at home and you want to use that version and use the original enhanced hull plating, go for it. Officially, it has been replaced, so we're going to use, obviously, this NX Enterprise 01. Now, you may equip the Federation prototype construction upgrade, ignoring its restrictions, and even if this ship has a different construction upgrade. There was a big thing about why the NX-01 isn't a prototype, given that it's literally the NX-01. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in here, we're going to put enhanced hull plating in the construction upgrade, and we're going to put Federation prototype into the NX special slot. Now, the Federation prototype adds another slot, and it gives it the ability to reroll one blank or battle station when defending. And the enhanced hull plating is, when you defend, if you have no shields and you're not cloaked, you may add up to 2 evades during the modified defense die step, and you place an Orcs power token beside your ship for each one you take. An upgrade over the original version, whereas the original version was you could use it once per turn, and it was in the roll defense die step, so you had to make that decision before you rolled your dice to add the 2 results in. The other ability of the Enterprise NX-01 is that you may still perform actions on Federation captains and or crew upgrades, even with Orcs power tokens. Now, that's not admirals. So if you were to bring Admiral Forrest, for example, the canonical admiral for this era, he couldn't use his admiral ability when you've got an Orcs power token. But Captain Jonathan Archer or T'Pol totally could. So on that note, we're going to stick in here with the NX era. Now, there isn't a way to, on proper Utopia here, there isn't a way to search through just for eras. if you are a part of the Discord group, the Fremont Reformation, we have a separate costing with Spuds, which is a updated pointing system, which basically brings some of the older ships, which are very expensive, into line with the updated ships that have been coming out in the recent packs. On that website, we have added a functionality allowing you to search for people only from a particular era. So I could go era NX, and it would only show me people from the NX era. So, on this website, we're going to go. So, we have Jonathan Archer. We have two versions of Jonathan Archer. Or, we have T'Pol. There are two versions of T'Pol. Now, both of these do captain the Enterprise NX-01 at some point. T'Pol during several moments when Archer is either on an away team, injured, several parts during the Xindi excursion. T'Pol as a commander in Starfleet does take command of the ship. So there are several ways we could do this. So let's look at T'Pol first. So the first T'Pol, you can choose evades or battle station tokens at the start of the combat phase, and you can spend your scan tokens as if they were those. So if you've picked up 3 scans in the combat phase, you could choose evade, and that would give you the ability to spend those scan tokens as if they were evade tokens. And the other T'Pol is, as an action, perform a 1 forward roll. I'm not entirely sure on the official name for it, but there is a forward roll maneuver. So you move effectively 2 straight forwards and 1 to the side. So it's basically like a forward move and a barrel roll in 1. Evasive maneuver, I believe. If you are equipped to a Vulcan ship, you get a pair of scan tokens afterwards. If you are on an NX class ship, you may perform a crew action as a free action. Now, that's quite nice. It gives you the ability to do this thing, a nice cool maneuver, and you get a crew action. Possibility. That might be what we want to do. Other archers. Now, both archers add a crew slot to the upgrade bar, which is nice. More crew. The Federation always want their crew upgrades. The first one is the original version. You may disable up to 2 crew upgrades as an action. For each crew you disable, you gain +1 attack dice when firing primary weapon, and you increase your skill number by 1 until the end phase. Now, that +1 attack dice when attacking, it is when attacking, so you get +2 attack dice. That's nice, primary weapon. And +2 captain skill, boosting you from your 5 to a 7. So, you can boost yourself, that's quite nice. And it's disabling crew upgrades, which the NX is quite good at dealing with. The other Jonathan Archer is the modern one, allowing you to, as an action, perform 2 other Federation crew actions as free actions, but then you have to disable each of them, whether they were disabled or not. Whether they would normally be disabled or not. Some of them, like it's just an action do this, they become an action disabled to do this with Archer. So, it swings and roundabouts. There are ways you can do this. Now, this is already a super defensive ship with the EHP and the Federation prototype. So, I think we might go... could go for this Jonathan Archer, I think. Disable crew upgrades. Actually, no, we're going to go with a new one. So action, 2 crew upgrades as free actions, and then you get a disable token. Now, you may notice another little slot's opened up just here. Porthos, the bestest boy in Starfleet. This may be equipped to a ship with Jonathan Archer equipped without requiring an upgrade slot. But it must be a Federation captain. So, Porthos doesn't take up a crew slot when Jonathan Archer's the captain. Porthos' ability is at the start of the combat phase, you put 2 time tokens on him, and you re-enable either your captain or a crew upgrade. Sounds nice. It just allows you to... It's an automatic refresh. It takes every other round, but it's an automatic refresh. Now, we're going to look at talent. For talents, there are any number of them we could do. Very few of them are locked to a particular era. Cheat Death would be very appropriate for the NX. The amount of times it takes tons of damage and yet sails through. Tactical Alert is the one that he originally came with, which is you can spend a battle stations token to re-roll all your attack or defense dice. Very nice. It's a way of using that battle stations token effectively as either a target lock or a defensive target lock. However, this is the other one. Legacy of the Name. Federation ship, Federation captain, and it must be on a unique ship. As a free action, you get 3 time tokens. And you can perform battle stations or a crew action, or a evade action, sorry, as a free action. If this card is equipped to Enterprise, you may perform any available action as a free action. So it's only every 3 rounds, but it gives you an absolute free action of anything you like, because this ship does contain Enterprise. Now, it itself is a free action. So if you have Orcs power tokens, you cannot perform this action. Even if you want to trigger a crew action with it, this itself is a free action. You cannot perform this under Orcs power tokens. So this is what you'd use to do your Alpha Strike. So on the turn you're getting into combat, you would use Legacy of the Name to trigger Archer. He would trigger all his crew stuff, and you'd still have your actual action to do something else. Maybe another crew upgrade apart from the 2 that Archer's activated. So, little combo there. But yeah, once you start getting Orcs power tokens, you won't be able to trigger Legacy of the Name. For Admirals, there is only one, which is Maxwell Forest. And again, we're doing one ship, so there's no reason to not include it. It basically gives you your action to perform an additional 1-speed maneuver. Now, you could use your Legacy of the Name action to trigger that, give you additional maneuverability before you activate Archer. And it gives you a 1 hard turn, which the ship doesn't normally get. So, very maneuverable. And it makes him skill 6. Never a bad thing. Now, we're going to look at the crew. So, the first one we're going to look at is Charles Tucker III. Now, each one of the Enterprise NX crew has 2 variants. The original version that came with the original pack, and the new one that came with the latest faction pack. You will be able to tell due to the wording and also the power level which one came with which. So, Charles Tucker III. Trip. Action: if your ship is not in the forward firing of an enemy ship, repair 1 damage to your ship's hull. That's the original one. The modern one. Locked to a ship of hull 3 or less. After you perform a maneuver, you may disable Tucker to remove an Orcs power token from beside your ship and then perform an additional maneuver with a speed of 1. That is a brilliant ability, because it's after you perform a maneuver. So you can do your 3 come about, take an Orcs power token, then disable Tucker, remove the Orcs power token from beside your ship, and then perform an additional speed 1. Or you could just, you want to do an additional, you've got an Orcs power token, but you need to go straight forwards or do anything else. You want to do a white maneuver. He allows you to basically remove the Orcs power token on a white maneuver and get an additional move out of it as well. And he disabled himself to do that. So that's not even one you have to worry about triggering with Archer or Legacy of the Name. The next crew we're going to look at is, we are going to look at T'Pol. Now, T'Pol has 3 variants. So, we have, when defending, if you have a scan token beside your ship, you may spend that scan to re-roll up to 2 defense dice. That's not a bad shout. It's not a bad idea. I mean, it gives you some defensive quality. You're already pretty defensive, what with 3 defense dice, 1 re-roll from the Fed prototype, and the 2 automatic evades. However, you are at that point there, rolling 3 defense dice with 1 re-roll. On average, that gives you, you're going to get 1 evade, because since there's 3 out of 8 sides on a defense dice have got an evade symbol, you're rolling 3 dice. On average, that gives you a total of 9 out of 8. 3 out of 8 3 times. Giving you on average 1.125 evades. With a re-roll, it gives you an extra, 3/8 chance of rolling that evade again. So in total, that brings you up to 1.5 evades per roll with the Fed prototype, plus the 2 in from the enhanced hull plating. So you're rolling 3 evades on average with the Fed prototype enhanced hull plating in your dice. T'Pol gives you an additional 2 rerolls, meaning it bumps you up more likely. Your 3 dice with that scan token is going to realise 2 evades to maybe leaning towards 3. Fundamentally, it gives you a full reroll. So, could be. If you want to make this super defensive, it's certainly a way to go. There is, T'Pol, add a tech upgrade to your upgrade bar. Very nice. You may notice the Enterprise NX does not come with a native tech slot, so it adds a very nice tech slot. In the original pack, you used her when you wanted to bring a generic NX, and she gave the generic NX the tech slot with which it could bring the enhanced hull plating tech upgrade. When you fire your prime weapon, if you've got a scan token, you can disable T'Pol and make the enemy ship lose 2 defense dice rather than 1. So she doubles a scan token. She's 3 points for a tech slot, which is nice, and it doubles one of your scan tokens. If you've only got 1 scan token, she can make it effectively minus 2 scans. Again, possibly, the modern one adds another crew slot. Oh look, even more people. And as an action, you can increase your captain's skill by 2 and place a scan token beside your ship. So not only does she give you even more space, she also gives you, as an action, she'll cap you out at your skill 8. 5 base, 1 for forest, and 2 for her. Skill 8 archer, nice. And gives you a scan token. Never a bad thing. The next person we've got, we're going to look at Reed. So, we have 2 versions of Malcolm Reed again. So, when attacking with prime weapon, you may disable Malcolm Reed and discard a weapon upgrade to add 2 extra attack dice to your attack. It's not bad. It's certainly not brilliant. It's a disable him and a discard of another card for plus 2 attack dice. But it's certainly a possibility. However, the modern one, you might see a lot of this. The modern one is you get the phase cannons for free without requiring an upgrade slot, because canonically he is the one who helps Trip to install them. I'll go through them in a second. And the second thing is, as an action, you get to convert 1 blank and 1 battle station to hits attacking this game around, with all attacks. 2 points of conversion every time you attack. The phase cannons allow you to make 2 attacks with your primary weapon. NX locked only, but on Malcolm Reed they're free. So, perfect. Now, we've got 2 more crew slots. We're going to look at Hoshi Sato, our communications officer. 2 of them, when defending, if you've got a scan token, you may disable Hoshi to force the ship, an attacking ship, to lose an attack dice. That's not a bad shout. It disables her, and if you have a scan token, which T'Pol would give you as an action, you can make the enemy lose an attack dice. Now that does use up the 1 trigger for that scan token, but you can still use it to minus their defense dice. The other Hoshi is disable her at the start of the activation phase, target a ship at range 1 to 3, and all of their upgrades are reduced by 1, in range by 1, to a minimum of range 1. Now that works, so if it's range 1 to 2, it becomes just range 1. If it's range 2 to 3, it becomes just range 2. If it's range just 3, it becomes range just 2. Range just 2 becomes range just 1, and so on. Basically, take 1 off of the maximum range off of the ability. So, it could be useful for knocking out someone's ability. So, someone's got a, right, here's a range 1 to 2 weapon that I'm going to fire at you. Well, now it's a range 1 weapon. So you have to get really close. Or an ability that says if you're within range 1 to 3 of an enemy ship, range 1 to 2. So, she's nice. She's a good possibility. But I think I'm going to bring the original Hoshi, disabling her to force the attacking ship to roll 1 less attack dice. It's a way of using that scan token that T'Pol gives you. It can still be used, as I said, for its normal ability of knocking off a defense dice, but it also makes them lose an attack dice, which just helps you survive longer. Now, there are 2 other main crew upgrades, and we have 1 normal slot, but we do have a Federation prototype slot to fill up as well. So, Travis Mayweather. Two versions. The original one, if you reveal a 2 or a 3 bank, you can disable it to change it to a turn, and it becomes a red. So he can go, well, I've keyed in my 2 bank to the left or whatever. Oh, I need to make it different. Okay, it becomes a 2 hard turn. But it does make it a red. Now, it is executing maneuver, so it would pair with trip. So if you do it, you could then use trip and then still power out of it. The other one is action, perform a full about maneuver. The full about maneuver is the U-shape template, which Bajoran interceptors get, and then you get an evade token. But it is a red maneuver. But again, it is still performing a maneuver. So both of them work with trip. Both of them are cool. Both of them are nice abilities. The other person we need is Phlox. Now, during the activation phase, they are both exactly the same ability, but the new one is the one we use. As a free action, disable Phlox to re-enable every other crew upgrade. So, the order would go, you're going to be in combat this round, you free action Legacy of the Name, do Jonathan Archer. Archer does T'Pol and Malcolm, and then disables both of them. Then, if you've already used, say, Trip or Hoshi last round, or maybe this round, or, if you've already used them last round, then you just disable Phlox, re-enable everybody, and then at the start of the combat phase, Porthos re-enables Phlox. If, you haven't, you can still disable Phlox, and then Phlox gets re-enabled with Porthos. Porthos could be used to re-enable just one if you haven't needed to re-enable Hoshi. If you haven't needed to use Phlox because it's only one crew upgrade, Porthos will re-enable them for you at the start of the combat phase. And of course, we also do have T'Pol is a first officer. So if Archer ever gets killed, T'Pol will take over, will get her cool captain ability with the ability to do the evasive maneuver, and then get a Federation crew action as a free action, so she can keep triggering Malcolm. Now, that's the crew. We could still put Travis in the universal slot. I don't think we need it here. We have got bonus maneuverability with Forrest already, and we have the potential for T'Pol, obviously, if Archer ever gets killed. Plus, we've got extra maneuverability with Tucker anyway. So, we now have a universal slot and a weapon slot. Now, weapon slots, we could do many things. A standard one is Arsenal. Two more weapon slots, at which point you put Type 8 and Upgraded, which make this thing an absolute beast of a powerhouse. That's not exactly era specific. The Arsenal totally is. However, Type 8 and Upgraded. Upgraded phases, probably. +1 attack dice. And if you hit an attack squadron, a fighter squadron, you get to make another attack against that target. So with the phase cannons and the upgraded phases, against a fighter squadron, you get 3 attacks. You fire normally, trigger the phase cannon, trigger upgraded phases. Technically, if I'm right, because you are making a prime weapon attack, you're meant to make a second attack against that target. Because you're making another attack, thanks to upgraded phases, you might be able to fire again with the phase cannons. But even if you can't, 3 attacks against a fighter squadron, you're going to strip off 3. Especially since Malcolm Reed triggers on all 3 attacks, you're going to strip off 3 tokens off of that fighter squadron. Makes this thing very good against fighters. Now, we have a lot of possibilities. There is some more crew upgrades we can have a look at. So we have Rivers, who is Seth MacFarlane in his Star Trek role. An engineer. When you suffer hull damage, you can discard Rivers and place an Orc's power to implode your ship to repair 1 hull. Now, you do have to survive the damage. This is the thing. When it comes to all of these things that after suffering damage, you have to finish the deal damage step. When you start the deal damage step, nothing can interrupt that. Unless something alters how it works. So something like reinforced bulkheads, which says all crits become normal hits unless they're Orc Core breach. that at the start of basically that is a trigger that goes on the stack at the start of the deal damage step, and you go, right, here's a crit. Is it a warp core breach? Nope. Put it face down, don't care. It's just damage. This is, you've suffered hull damage. If you suffer enough hull damage to kill your ship outright, rivers cannot trigger. However, if you have suffered some damage and still alive, then after they've dealt that damage and all the cards have been handed out, you can then trigger rivers to heal 1 health for discarding him. We have J. Hayes. Also, J. Hayes is also a variant for a captain. He's an original captain for the NX Enterprise when he takes over the head of the Mako. He's as a tough for a hull damage for a bonus dice. Not brilliant, but again, possibly useful if you really needed to, especially if you're going for secondary weapon cards. However, this J. Hayes, adds +1 captain skill. That's nice. And as an action, you can discard him, target an opposing ship at range 1 to 2, and kill one of their crew upgrades. So you can just use him as an action to go over there and kill someone. So, here is an NX. It even comes in at 47 points, which means we would have the points, if you wanted to put Saval, who is, again, an NX era ambassador, or Valar. Either one of them would go nicely on here. Because Saval's, if they accept, then, you know, they place an Orcs power token beside, you get to place an Orcs power token beside yourself if you go within range 1 of that ship. And you can still do Archer and T'Pol and Reed and Hayes and Phlox and all the rest of them, because you are the Enterprise. So, possibility. But again, we'll stick with that. He's not meant to go on the NX, he's on a Vulcan ship. So, this is an NX Enterprise. This is the hero ship. So, this is very much in the war footing, so this is probably Xindi era, start of Season 3, very beginning. You know, it's already made a name for itself, legacy of the name. You've got T'Pol for the scanning ability and the bonus captain skill, which does cap you out at 8. I know you've got a total of a +4 running at this point. Forrest's 1, Hayes' 1, and T'Pol's 2. But rule of 3 kicks in. But it does mean if someone's running a minus, then you work it out with the +4, whatever their minus is. So you might still end up in a bonus. Malcolm Reed is good for the quality. You're getting 3 dice with the upgraded phasers. Very appropriate given the fact they've had a weapons upgrade. Porthos, the bestest boy, keeps everyone going. Phlox is a doctor extraordinaire. The Fed prototype gives you some more defensive ability, as does the HP and Hoshi. The legacy of the name allows you to do Archer, which gives you T'Pol and Malcolm in the same round, or T'Pol and Hayes, or any combination, and Forrest at the same time, or just action battle stations if you wanted it for the defense. So, here is the NX Enterprise. As I say in every single video, this is not the only way to play this ship. There are many other ways you could do it. You could have the other Archer with, you know, lower level crew members that you're disabling for their bonuses. You don't want them to have actions. So you could bring Legacy of the Name, you bring that Archer. He disables a couple of crew upgrades. Phlox re-enables them. You know, use Legacy of the Name to trigger Malcolm Reed, so you get the conversions, and then you're rolling 4 dice twice thanks to phase cannons and his ability at the higher captain skill, so you don't need to bring T'Pol, and you could put Travis in there instead, so you're always going to be in their fire, and that sort of thing. There's multiple ways you could do this. So this is my build for the NX. Again, if you want to throw it together, have a look. You know, Utopia, the link's right at the top there. Or, you know, you can go on to the Fremont Reformation, the Discord. The link is in my channel page. Go on there, and the link to the master page for Utopia will be in there. Build your own NX. Post it in the comments. Drop me a message. I'll have a look. You know, if you want to put through a build, then I'm happy to. You can send me through a build, and I'll happily do a video on it, explaining it, exploring it, finding out what you've done, how it works, all that sort of stuff. If you want me to do a review of your own build. Any suggestions for future ships, again, pop them in the comments. I'm going to be moving on after this. I'm going to be doing the original series, Enterprise, and then obviously the Enterprise D, the E, Voyager, and the Defiant. I may also do Deep Space Nine as the giant space station, but obviously Deep Space Nine and the Defiant will have a lot of overlap in terms of crew upgrades. Although there's a lot of crew upgrades that work on the Defiant but don't work on the DS9 because they're defensive ones, and a lot of defensive stuff you can't use with Deep Space Nine. Evade tokens being the big one. So, thank you very much for joining me. If you like this, drop a comment, like the video, helps me out. Brilliant. Thank you for everyone that watches so far, and we'll see you next time.